speakers, and they'll get to them at the end of the session. And then any chit chat, you know, if you want to drop your LinkedIn profile, let us know where you're tuning in from. Feel free to drop that in the chat box. I'll go ahead and hand it over to our speakers from Canvs today, so you guys can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Kara. We're really excited to take part in today's tech showcase focused on brand tracking. At Canvs, we bring some very unique capabilities to the market to support the tracking use case, and really proud to be one of the first, if not the first, text analytics solution with tracking specific capabilities built into the platform. Also really proud, just because we're within the Green Book fam today, to call out that we are a 2022 GRIT technology partner. Canvs is actually the text analytics solution that's used as part of the analysis for the GRIT 50 and the GRIT reports. So really proud of that, and also want to call out that just yesterday we were recognized as a leader in the G2 kind of quadrant for text analytics. So really excited and proud of that, mostly because that's based on customer reviews letting us know how they're using Canvs. So with that in mind, let's get going here. I'm Trip Kucera. I'm the head of marketing for Canvs, and I have the pleasure to be joined by my co-host, Emily Essig, who is a product manager at Canvs, but really one of the sharpest folks in the business when it comes to analysis of open-ended text, and sees a lot of the way our customers are getting success using Canvs to analyze open ends. And a lot of that has come through analyzing open ends in the context of tracking studies. Emily, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. All right, I just want to set up a little bit of context, set the scene here. It's certainly been a long and winding road over the last 30 months plus of the consumer landscape. Feels like certainly a lot of that taken up with our kind of response to the pandemic, and then feels like the recovery, if you will, has taken even longer and has had more than its fair share of twists and turns, and we're still dealing with those repercussions, you know, today. It feels like there's a different kind of buzzword popping up in the industry every moment. You know, we're going from quiet quitting, the great resignation, to quiet quitting, inflation to stagflation, and obviously the pandemic to revenge travel. I guess we can just leave it all behind and jump on the metaverse and see where that brings us. Long and short here is that it's never been more important for brands to have their finger on the pulse of the consumer. Seems like the consumer preferences and trends and behaviors seem to shift at a moment's notice. With I've heard one analyst call it kind of consumer flocking. Seems like there's just massive changes in very short periods of time that are happening. And of course, tracking studies are all about being able to have the instrumentation to understand you know, those changes, but understanding the nuance around that is obviously critical. And at Canvs, we're advocates for the role of open ends and open-ended questions in research when you have the tools to analyze them effectively and incorporate that analysis fully into the research. And you know, we often see from our customers you know, some different roles that the open ends are playing, right? Completing the picture. In some cases, particularly where we don't want to introduce bias, we're identifying some unexpected findings. We actually heard a presentation from Chobani recently. They did an analysis of how inflation was impacting pack type choice. And they were really surprised by the findings that actually price wasn't the leading factor, remained choice. But just a quick example of how open ends can be used to remove bias and to find those unexpected findings. You know, another key area is that we can identify emotion and sentiment in the way people are expressing themselves, and we're going to see a little bit of that in our demo. Ultimately, it's about narrative color, right? Being able to you know, really kind of complete that full picture of a consumer. That all sounds great, but of course, open ends are really notoriously challenging to analyze at scale. It's kind of like taking this ball of yarn and organizing it as researchers like to do into nice, neat boxes, themes and emotions, and kind of be able to quantify this and to be ultimately. Uh, there's a lot of frustration of the ability to generate statistically significant findings from those open ends. That's ultimately what our mission at Canvs is about. It's about empowering insights professionals to generate core insights from open-ended text in their research work. So you're going to see how we unpack this in the demo in just a moment, but just really quickly, kind of some of the key elements here is doing the heavy lifting of the text analysis and identifying kind of misspellings, common phrases that mean the same things, all those things that are really, really frustrating to do in an Excel. I mentioned emotional reactions, so the ability to use language to identify how are people feeling based on how they're expressing themselves. This is an area of particular strength for Canvas. We have a patent around our emotion framework, which goes well beyond positive and negative. And then finally, it's the instrumentation around being able to work with open ends. This goes from uploading and importing the data onto the platform. We've developed a very kind of simple step-by-step process to do that. We're increasingly introducing connectors that make this super easy to basically just connect to your data platform and import those open ends. We have a connector right now with Qualtrics already. So as you go on the platform, you can find your Qualtrics surveys and bring the open ends directly in without needing to replicate a survey or anything along those lines. The ability to work with the open ends in a way Emily's going to show in a moment, filter things, create quick pivots, look at the comparisons, and then ultimately to be able to pull those insights out in report-ready fashion, whether that's in the graphics, whether that's in a PowerPoint, or in the full Excel exports that, again, allow you to manipulate that data and bring it into your studies. And in the context of tracking, obviously the ability to do all of that across multiple waves of a tracker. And we're almost there. We're almost to the demo. I just wanted to call out one more thing, which is we recently introduced tracking specific capabilities within Canvas MRX. So these are really based on feedback we were getting from our customers, so many of which were using Canvas to analyze multiple waves, data across multiple waves of a tracking study. So we introduced capabilities that first allow you to organize all of that data together in tracking collections with multiple waves. Then, of course, to be able to apply our emotion and thematic measurement against those waves, and then ultimately to be able to do the longitudinal comparisons across the waves and really see what's changing, what's staying the same. So this is exactly what we want to show for you today in the demonstration. So if we could bring up Emily's screen, and Emily, you ready to share a little bit about our fashion brand today?
Absolutely, I'm excited. So thank you, Trip. Thanks for the intro. As he mentioned, today we're going to be looking at a fashion brand tracking use case. It is two parts. The first, we're going to focus on an unaided awareness study, followed by a brand association study. So to start with, I assume that most of us here are familiar with unaided awareness studies. Just to say it out loud, in this type of work, we are looking specifically to track and understand brand recall and salience, or how aware of a brand a consumer might be when they're considering their options in a buying situation. For today's demo, we're going to be looking at a dummy data set that asks the question, when you think of shopping for clothes online, what brand comes to mind? And as you can see here, we're looking at 3 waves of data. Data from Q1, Q2, and Q3. Now, upon first glance, reporting on my unaided awareness study is going to seem like an easy task, right? I just need to do a quick count of the brands mentioned to quantify the open-ended responses. However, as Trent mentioned, and as we all know, humans introduce a lot of nuance into their open-ended responses. Quick counts don't consider misspellings, they don't consider nicknames, or an understanding of parent-child companies or related brands. And this can make reviewing unaided awareness responses extremely time consuming and tedious. Now, before we dig into how Canvas can help users solve that problem, I want to just quickly orient you on our platform. What you're looking at right now is our survey analysis page. Canvas accepts uploads of any CSV or Excel file, or you can import data via API or one of our integrations with survey tools you might already be using, like Qualtrics. I'm not going to show you the upload process today, but just imagine a simple point and click tool that allows you to basically tell Canvas which columns in your data set are open ends that you'd like to analyze, as well as which close ends you'd like for us to ingest and use for segmentation and quick insights within the platform. Once you press submit, your analysis will typically be done in just a few minutes, and this is the page you'll see. Canvas MRX presents 3 different types of analysis on all of your verbatims. Topics, which is what we're seeing right now. It's our topical analysis. Emotions, which is our emotional analysis. And a summary, which contains our thematic analysis and features theme codes as well as category nets. Now, data sets that ask a simple what question, like an unaided awareness tracker, are obviously going to be topic focused, and we're not going to see emotions in them. So we're going to skip that and look at that in our second data set today. I like to think of Canvas topics as smart keywords. We use NLP techniques to automatically group together plurals, conjugations, misspellings, and global synonyms for important entities in your data set, and we present them as topics. So for example, here, if I hover over Amazon, I can see that Canvas is automatically detecting Amazon as Amazon, and we're also automatically detecting Amazon as Amazon. Similarly, here on TJ Maxx, you can see that whether someone spelt TJ Maxx like the name Max, or whether they smushed it together in one word, we are surfacing TJ Maxx as its own entity. Now, for your Canvas summary, Canvas summary is our thematic and categorical analysis within the product, and it includes a level of hierarchy. Codes, and then their nets. The nets and codes in the Canvas summary can be created one of 3 ways. Via Canvas automation, so Canvas's AI, our automatic codes look for topic and emotion clusters, as well as themes trained by industry and survey type. We also have rule-based codes, and we also have manual codes, so codes that you can create automatically. And we'll dig into that a little bit more in our next study. For topic-focused studies like this, you can tell that the codes that Canvas produces are pretty much going to reflect your topics. However, when we do recognize a brand, we will try to categorize it with its industry. Now, you'll notice here that Canvas created 2 separate codes and 2 separate topics for Amazon and Amazon Prime, because we don't know if you as a researcher want to understand those entities together or separately. But if I know that in the consideration of shopping for clothes online, that those are really the same thing, I can very easily click on Amazon, click on Amazon Prime, see what those open ends look like together, and then decide whether I want to merge them. Let me go ahead and just open up my Manage Summary tool here, and this is just another view that you can use in the platform to understand your Canvas summary. And I can simply just select my 2 codes and merge them right in the platform, naming them however I'd like them to be moving forward. I can also tell Canvas to make this same edit on all of the waves that I upload automatically. And that's what we call a user rule. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. And instead of editing the topic locally or editing the code locally, I apologize, I'm going to type in a quick Boolean phrase. I'm going to simply look for my 2 topics, Amazon and Amazon Prime. And I can teach Canvas that any single time I see the topic Amazon or Amazon Prime, I'd like to define a different code to give that code moving forward, a different name to give that code moving forward. I apologize. And here is our rules tool. Essentially, you name your rule, your query will populate here, and then you'll tell Canvas, anytime I see Amazon or Amazon Prime, I'd like it to give it the name, just the code Amazon by itself. Now, this is obviously very important.
I can imagine the context of a tracking study that these rules become, pretty helpful because you're looking at kind of the same competitive landscape over time. You're looking at the same, kind of dynamics around how people are talking about the brand, et cetera. So these rules can be built over time and become effectively quite useful for each additional wave you're uploading.
Yes, exactly. And we're going to see in our next example a use case where I've actually already applied a set of Canvas rules to my data set. So let's say I'm happy with how I've coded this survey. The final thing I'm going to do is just show you quickly how easy it is to get data out of Canvas. So we have a variety of exports available. They're all custom and purpose-built for specific ways we know that researchers need to see their data. I'm going to show you a few at the end of this demo, but you can just see we have different Excel spreadsheets. We also have quick just screen grabs of our various tree maps, as well as PowerPoint slides. So I'm happy with this unaided awareness survey. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next use case. The next data set we're going to be looking at today is a retail brand tracker that simply asks the question, how would you describe the brand? This is a brand perception study. So my goal as a researcher is not only to track sentiment and associations over time as a KPI, but also to understand what is driving customer feelings, see if there's any areas of improvement or actions we can take, and understand how the actions that we do take influence how customers perceive our brand over time. So on this data set, it asks, this is what we call a more open-ended question. It's not asking specifically for topics. It allows for more nuanced and emotional responses, as you can see here. Canvas categorizes the emotional expressions found in text based on 42 unique clusters. Canvas emotions are hierarchical and they have neighbors, and they allow for a nuanced understanding of how people are feeling. Now, all of our tree maps are interactive. So I can hover over an emotion and I can see quickly what topics are driving that emotion. So here I can see that 2.9% of open ends expressed the emotion funny. And I can see that that was driven by clothing, color, and prints. So I can assume that my brand maybe has some funny characters or funny fabrics that they have in their clothing. Now, obviously, as we've mentioned, Canvas's emotions are quite nuanced. And especially for longitudinal studies where we're looking at data from a lot of respondents over the course of a lot of time, we know that it can be really valuable to take a higher level approach and look at emotional themes in a different framework. In Canvas, we have additional academic frameworks that are available. And essentially all of our Canvas emotions roll up and are summarized via Ekman or Plutchik emotions. So here I can roll up into Ekman emotion anger. If I select this on my tree map, then I can not only see what Canvas emotions roll up into anger, so hate, dislike, annoying, and upset. Like I mentioned, those are all neighbors and they're hierarchical. I like to think of them as sort of how passionate are you in your anger? Are you just like lightly annoyed? Are you upset? Or do you hate it? I can also see quickly what topics are driving that broad dislike or that broad anger. And here, this is interesting to me, right? I can see that it's driven by quality and cheap. So is it poor quality? Is it cheap? Is it fast fashion? There's something going on with a return policy, perhaps. I can select return and see what verbatims filter in here as well. So I can look at the actual verbatims driving this response. And then I can also see a theme here around maybe the fit, whether it's small or doesn't fit well, et cetera. Now, for this data set, as I've mentioned, I've built a custom set of rules. You can see all of my rules that I've applied to the data set here. You can see there's 13 rules. If you open each of these up, I can actually see what query I built to build the rule. I can also see in platform which of my rules were developed, or which of my codes were developed by rules, and which insights are still produced by Canvas automatically and organically. So even though I am searching for things, I'm still allowing insights to organically arise over time. Now, for longitudinal studies, it's obviously, we've said this before, it's important to view data over time and understand how changes might happen from wave to wave. So if I close out of this, and actually I'm just going to switch to a new tab. Here I filtered to specifically Q2. So this is my second wave. And I can see that Canvas is producing some automatic insights about what we found is statistically significantly important between waves. So here I can see in Q2, this wave received 1.5 more dislike compared to the average of all of my other waves. Now, I can also explore my data using what we call Canvas Quick Compare. If I look at this, I can quickly compare by waves. And because I know I want to look at emotions and I want to look at some specific themes to see what's driving those emotions, I've gone ahead and bookmarked a couple of comparisons that I think are interesting. The first is my emotion tracker. So for this view, I'm quickly looking at what I'm considering my enjoy emotions with varying levels of passion, as well as my dislike and hate emotions with varying levels of passion. And I can see here that enjoy is trending up over time. And as I already know from my highlights, there's this spike in dislike in Q2. Now, because I already learned in my analysis that dislike is driven by this theme around quality and this theme around fit, I've gone ahead and I've built a tracker that can look at some specific themes that I think might be driving that emotion dislike. Let's say hypothetically, I learned in Q2, right, that something's going on where people are saying, oh, all their clothes are too small. So we've made some business decisions and perhaps we've run a campaign around size inclusivity. I can take a look at that and see, hey, great. In Q1, no one was mentioning size inclusivity, but we've seen that over time, that campaign is having an impact. Now, for today's purposes, we've built out a couple of example visualizations that you can see that we've pulled from these data. Kara, would you actually mind bringing up the presentation again? Awesome. Okay, so what we're seeing here is just, as I mentioned before, we have a variety of different exports you can pull out of Canvas. One of my favorite exports to use is our crosstab pivot table. It's fully editable. You can pull in any of the segmentation variables you've included over time. You can look at specific cohorts, et cetera. We also include some simple exports that are just show your data in different structured ways. This next visualization is obviously showing our emotion, our sentiment over time by quarter. So in the sort of warm colors there, you see our enjoy and love. You can see again, enjoy increasing over between quarters. And you see that sort of the cool colors there are dislike and hate between quarters. This last visualization is showing those specific themes over time. So as I mentioned before, we can see this inclusivity, size inclusivity theme increasing, while the conversation about the fit being too small decreased in Q3. I can also see that conversation about the quality of clothes has changed over time, and my good quality is going up. Using this kind of visualization, I can report to my stakeholders that the campaign the value of that campaign has paid off, but it's also proving that our work as researchers has made an impact on the business. And that's what I have for you guys today. Trip, are we ready for a quick Q&A?
I think we are, yeah. So I just want to kind of play that back real quick as Kara kind of brings up the Q&A. So just to kind of recap, like I love that we've kind of shown, we talked about kind of the importance of, voice of the customer and empathy in terms of brands and kind of taking the pulse of the consumer. Of course, we're big believers that open ends are really helpful tool in being able to do that because it kind of just obviously it opens up, it gives an unfiltered perspective from the customer, but it's historically been challenging to analyze those efficiently. Canvas is all about kind of bringing up a tool set into the hands of those insights professionals to be able to really bring insights as core functionality into tracking capabilities, which you've shown here. And I really love the overlay of the emotion, being able to track emotion in addition to kind of the perception. So really, really powerful, awesome stuff. Thank you, Emily. One last thing, just as we open up to questions and give folks time to get their phone out or whatever to capture this. We do find that folks really get the power of Canvas when they see it kind of in a demo that's kind of customized to their use case, or often we're happy to run demos with sample data you may already have. So if you'd like to do that, scan this code. We'll also send you a gift card for coffee on us, so you can sit back, have a cup of coffee, and let Canvas do the work and check out a demo. So for me, Kara.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. And if anybody is, wanting to click on that demo link as well, it should be kind of just above you in the description of the session. But Emily and Trip, thanks so much for your time in the session. It was really great. We have just a couple minutes for some questions. So if anybody has some, feel free to pop them in that Q&A. And I'll go off some of the ones we got in the anonymous chat. Can you just talk about, you mentioned a little bit about verbatims and the demo, and can you talk about how many verbatims Canvas can handle?
Sure, I can speak to that.
Great.
Canvas accepts in one data set up to 150,000 open ends. What we found is that, particularly for this use case, it's really useful to ingest smaller bytes in waves. So depending on the size of the volume is obviously going to impact how quickly it's returned to you automatically. But that's how much.
Awesome. Nice. Short and sweet. That's great. And I know you guys focused a lot on kind of the open-ended questions and how to capture those best, because they are so important, but also they're kind of hard to quantify and analyze. So how do you handle like the emotions and analyzing emotions at Canvas?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Canvas has an emotional framework of 42 clusters of emotions. This has been trained on almost 10 years of data over time. We started off learning about nuanced emotions from social text. Mm-hmm. So we really strive to understand emotion that comes from emojis, or what we call unnatural language processing. So we can understand the difference between something being the bomb versus something bombing, for example.
Awesome. That's really cool. And along those lines too, kind of what questions have you seen that are the most successful in these tracking case studies? Yeah.
What we find produces the most, emotional nuanced response is, like I said before, we call like an open-end, mm-hmm. open end, where you're inviting, what are your thoughts and feelings about the brand? Describe this, giving them a prompt that can't be answered in a one-word answer unless you explicitly want a one-word answer. In the case of, for example, an unaided awareness survey.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's super interesting. Well, thank you both so much for your time. We are kind of right at the end here. I don't know if there's any final thoughts or closing words you want to say, but yeah, we appreciate the time and the session. It was really great to hear from both of you.
Yeah, thanks so much. We appreciate the opportunity to share our passion for open ends and this type of analysis. And thank you to Greenbook for putting on this tech showcase. And thanks to all of you for showing up and your interest in text analytics as part of your tracking studies. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thanks. Bye, both.